an F. Tracy, why are you attending so casually and sitting in such a place? Samantha, what do you mean by that? Well, if there's a poor family, it lowers the status of a luxurious wedding reception. Oh, now, please go back home. Samantha, the fiancée of my brother, carelessly spoke such heartlessly cruel words. The complete opposite of the clean and pure white wedding dress she was wearing. A poor family, worrying the status. I had no idea what she was talking about. Samantha continued to hurl abusive words at us, but we as a family were completely baffled and just astonished. With each successive insult, we realized we were being looked down upon and underestimated, being ridiculed for things we had no idea about. I started to feel a simmering anger, but my father was the only one laughing out loud. This is amazing. Dad? What are you saying? Well, don't worry about it. Let's go home, shall we? Just with those words from my father, the tension in the room instantly heightened. I am Tracy Brown, about to turn 25. I work as an ordinary office worker at a major corporation. Ideally, I should have pursued a career in medicine, but I deliberately chose to attend a regular university and become an ordinary office worker. The reason I would have been better off pursuing medicine is that my father is an excellent neurosurgeon. After experiences at a university hospital, he opened his own hospital. He is now devoted to brain research, having stepped back from clinical practice. The hospital he founded is now taken over by trustworthy juniors. My friends often asked me, why don't you become a doctor when your father is one? However, I felt the responsibility of a doctor, holding people's lives in their hands, was too much for me. Having seen my father's work from a young age, I truly wanted to help people, but I just couldn't muster the confidence to bear the responsibility of being a doctor. I have an older brother, and unlike me, he graduated from medical school and became a doctor. Eric is 2 years older than me. He was academically excellent from childhood and got into a national university's medical school in one go. He was also popular with women during his student days due to his good looks and excellent grades. Of course, Eric's success was the result of his own efforts, but his success seemed to change him over time. Eric became quite an eccentric person. I first noticed Eric's change when I was still in high school. As his university life started in medical school, he began to indulge in nightlife and stopped coming home. He seemed to be attending university properly, but from his social media posts, he was always seen enjoying himself with different women. This lifestyle became known to my father, and one day, a big argument broke out between Eric and my father. Father, seeing Eric come home for the first time in a while, exploded in anger. Eric, what are you doing at university if you're not even coming home? What's up all of a sudden, Dad? I'm studying and getting my credits. There's absolutely no problem. That's not what I'm talking about. Being a doctor isn't a job you can do just because you have good grades. You must have a heart that empathizes with patients who are suffering. Oh, such a hassle, Dad. You know, in today's world, if you have the ability and skills, you can do anything. You sound like an old-school, passionate teacher from the old era. But that's outdated, you know? Bullet, say such things. Honestly, I really can't stand such hot-bloodedness. Don't meddle in your son's actions so much. It's so annoying. At that time, Eric had no hesitation in defying our parents. Simultaneously, his behavior towards me, his sister, became increasingly mocking. He would say things like, unlike me, you're dumb and incompetent. Really, someone slow like you can't succeed anywhere, can they? You're really lucky to have a smart brother like me, aren't you? He showered me with these demeaning words regularly. Eric's behavior seemed to be about establishing his own status by looking down on me. However, I always felt inferior when compared to Eric since childhood, so I couldn't retort even when he said terrible things. Eric, who lived as he pleased, graduated from university, but then he hit a wall. He passed the medical licensing exam, but he couldn't find a hospital to employ him. He had applied to 2 famous university hospitals, but was rejected from both. It seemed the reason for his rejection was his attitude during the interviews. Both hospitals had connections with our father, so we heard about Eric's behavior during the interviews. During the interviews, reportedly, Eric's remarks were arrogantly awful. Despite his lack of experience, he apparently behaved in a condescending and disparaging manner. Particularly bad was his comment, if I worked here, I could definitely increase the hospital's profits. Moreover, he mocked and belittled our father's motto of empathizing with patients. Learning this, our father, dismayed by Eric sulking, said to him, "Eric, work at my hospital for now and gain some experience." What? Really? Why your hospital? You haven't found a job yet, have you? So until you find a position, work at our hospital to hone your skills. Then, when you find a hospital that accepts you, you can move there. Damon, why has it come to this? Eric was indignant at our father's suggestion, but our father, worried about Eric's lack of direction, had decided to take him in. Eric was wrong to be angry at our father, but he didn't realize it. Our father's words might have been filled with parental care and the hope that Eric would become a doctor who empathizes with patients. However, Eric, failing to meet those expectations, began working at our father's hospital, where I hear complaints and grievances from patients never cease. Eric boasts about being the son of the former director and acts like a king. I've heard he proudly tells everyone he's the future director. I wonder when Eric will realize and respond to our father's hopes. All we can do is worry and watch. Then one day, Eric suddenly brought a woman home. "Hey Dad, Mom, this is my fiancée. Please be nice to her." We were all surprised by this unexpected visit from Eric and the woman, struggling to find words. "That's from Spexies. First, nice to meet you. Please treat me well," the on-site Samantha greeted us. She looked neat at first glance, but there was something unsettling about her, as if she was hiding something. What could it be? I felt uneasy, though it was the first time meeting her, thinking I might be overthinking it. I wondered, this person is going to be my sister-in-law. I had these indescribable feelings, but Eric's marriage plans progressed smoothly. Eric was living alone at that time, but after deciding to marry, he started visiting home more often. His reason wasn't to spend time with the family. Every time he came home, he would find some excuse to ask our parents for money. Just recently, he asked our father to cover the shortfall for his wedding expenses. Upon hearing this request, our father said to Eric with a serious tone, "Great, with a serious face, hearing about your marriage. I'm honestly happy, but you're going to start a family soon, right? Then please face your patients with sincerity." "Pa, what's that? You're still saying that?" "I mean, I do try to face the patients properly. Then why is it that the complaints to the hospital are mostly from the patients you've taken care of?" According to the current director, several patients have said, "I don't like my current doctor. I want a different one." What? That's just because they didn't like the diagnosis I gave, right? Every single one of them. They wouldn't have any problems if they just silently followed what I said. Hey, that attitude is exactly the problem. By doing whatever you want, you're causing trouble for everyone involved in the hospital. When are you going to realize that? Expectories. Theme. I get it. So I just need to empathize with the patients, right? I got it. So, Dad, please take care of the wedding expenses. I want to make it a memorable, beautiful ceremony for Samantha. Hearing Eric's wish to cherish his fiancée, Samantha, my mother, and I momentarily knew how he was feeling. After pondering for a while, my father, as if having made up his mind, began to speak. "Right, I understand. But in exchange for the expenses, promise me you'll live a life you won't be ashamed of, both as a doctor and as a husband." I know that. I will definitely become a doctor that lives up to your expectations. If that's the case, then good. As I said, I'll cover the wedding expenses. Yes, thanks, Dad. I'll send the estimate as soon as I get back, so please check it. A few days later, the estimate for the wedding from Eric arrived. When I checked the contents, I was shocked. It was a whopping $60,000. Startled, I immediately asked my father about this estimate. "Dad, what is this? Is it okay to spend such a large amount on a wedding?" Father sighed deeply and said, "Well, a wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime special day. Besides, didn't Eric say he wanted to make it a beautiful ceremony? Thinking about his partner, it's rare for him to say such things." Bunce asked Austin's Bex, "I think that's just Eric trying to trick you for money." Tracy, don't be so harsh. I think Eric is reflecting on something. Neglecting? Has he ever reflected on anything before? But sometimes it's okay to trust. Don't worry. And Tracy, I'll cover your wedding expenses too when the time comes. That's not the point. Well, if Dad decided, then it's fine. Well, I had many doubts about Eric's behavior. Paying the expenses was not my responsibility. And if my father believed in Eric, then I decided it was best to think that way. I resolved not to get too involved and not to think unnecessarily about it. However, the unease I initially felt did not disappear and continued to trouble me more and more. So one holiday, I was shopping near the station and happened to meet Eric and Samantha. When they saw me, they approached me with sly smiles. Hey Tracy, rare to see you here. So Eric, long time no see. Yeah, our wedding is next month. You're coming, right? But Tracy, well, of course. I'm planning to attend as a family. Let's look forward to it. It's gonna be really luxurious. Oh, and don't forget the gift money. Well, thinking about the mention of money again, I simply responded, okay, I'll prepare it. Samantha, hearing our exchange, spoke before Eric could. Hey Tracy, you know how much gift money you're supposed to give, right? What? Well, I've checked, but good. Then, please refrain from anything less than $3,000. Then, please refrain from anything less than $3,000. Less than $3,000 is no good. Samantha continued with a sly smile. That's why you know, since we're siblings, it would be really nice if you could give at least $3,000 as a gift. But it's a common thing, right? What common? $1,000 as a gift? It's a common thing, right? What common? Is that really common? I honestly hadn't heard of giving more than $3,000 as a wedding gift. So, my research on the internet indicated that the usual amount for siblings is around $500 to $700. Still considering it's Eric, and to avoid any trouble, I plan to prepare a generous $1,000. But for Samantha to demand as much as $3,000, is it normal to ask for such a high amount from the sister of the groom-to-be? Maybe Samantha, like Eric, is the kind of person who deviates from common sense. That indescribable discomfort I felt when I first met her at our house resurfaced. My bad premonition was coming true. To think that the person who's going to be my sister-in-law is so unreasonable and outrageous. After returning home, I consulted my parents about the wedding gift, and they said $1,000 is enough. I honestly wanted to avoid any potential issues, but I decided to go ahead and prepare $1,000 without any hesitation. And then a month later, the day of the ceremony finally arrived. I wore a green-based party dress and struggled with the unfamiliar outfit as I headed to the venue. Honestly, I don't like Eric or Samantha, but as I entered the venue filled with a celebratory atmosphere, my negative feelings seemed to fade away in the glamorous world. The venue was decorated lavishly and delicious food awaited. The ceremony was dazzling and captivated me with its elaborate production, passing by in a flash. Then it was time for the photo shoot. The newlyweds went around to each guest table for commemorative photos. When Samantha, now my brother's wife, came to our family's table, she looked at us and said with a sneering laugh, "Oh, how awful. Tracy, why are you attending so casually and sitting in such a place?" Samantha, what do you mean by that? Well, if there's a poor family, it lowers the status of a luxurious wedding reception. A poor family. Hearing the status, I had no idea what she was talking about. Why would she say such terrible things so casually to her husband's family? Shocked by Samantha's sudden words, my bewildered parents didn't know how to respond. Thanks to them, Eric, laughing loudly, was asked by me to explain what was going on. Pictures. Hey Eric, what's going on? Why is Samantha saying such awful things so casually? Why? Because it's the truth, isn't it? What? The truth? Well, yeah. Unlike us winners and elites, you guys are just losers, right? I'm going to be the next hospital director. My life is set as a winner. Eric said so and laughed even louder, holding his stomach. I couldn't understand why he classified things into winners and losers. Why are we considered losers? The only reason you have a job. Eric, is that Dad pulled some strings for you. As our family sat in silence, pondering, Samantha's voice got louder, echoing across the venue. Hey, isn't it embarrassing to live off your son's success? Don't keep flattering Eric forever. Samantha, what are you saying all of a sudden? What do you mean? I don't know where you work, but it's surely not anything significant, right? I checked the gift and it was only $1,000. That is, really, even the parents? Just because your son is so successful and will become the next hospital director. You're trying to ride on that, aren't you? That's what a poor family does. How pathetic. A next hospital director? My brother? Yes, that's right. Eric has been recognized for his talent by the current hospital director, and he's already been decided as the next director. We were just lost for words at Samantha's arrogant attitude. Similarly, Eric looked down on us with a triumphant expression. Apparently, Eric had described our family to Samantha as a hopeless, poor family. According to him, our father was a part-timer aimlessly wandering. Our mother a part-timer too, and I was merely a temp worker at an unknown company. In contrast, Eric seemed to have boasted to his colleagues at the hospital, saying, "I'm quite close to the director. I'm the one who's been decided as the next director." The current director was apparently completely unaware of such rumors spreading and was shocked to hear this for the first time. Despite the disgraceful scene and the venue starting to buzz, Eric and Samantha just smirked. Then, my father, who had been listening silently, changed the whole atmosphere of the place. Bursting into laughter, he held his stomach and laughed loudly enough to be heard throughout the venue. "This is amazing." "Huh, Dad, what are you saying?" Well, don't worry about it. Shall we go home? Actually, Orins. Wait, go home. Dad, are we leaving? Well, we were told to leave, weren't we? So we should go home. After all, we are the poor family, right? But such lies were said about us. Hearing our conversation, Eric and Samantha urged us to leave, saying, "Stop making a fuss. Just leave already." Then my father turned to Eric with a serious look and said, "Eric, I don't know why you've made up such baseless lies, but you should really stop showing off." "I'm not showing off. It's all true, isn't it?" "Is that so? Well, if you're capable of being the next director, you'll be fine working at another hospital, right?" My father then called over the current director, who's attending the ceremony, and said something to him. After seeing the director nod in agreement, my father declared to Eric, "Eric, you're fired as of today. Find yourself a new hospital to work at starting tomorrow." "What? Wait, what do you mean fired all of a sudden?" "Dad? Well, you're going to be the next director, right? With such skills, any hospital should be fine, right? But so suddenly? Or is it that you don't really have such skills?" "Oh, I see. Next director is just a lie of yours, right?" Hearing this, Eric was at a loss for words and fell silent. Samantha, having listened to this conversation, began to interrogate Eric with a furious expression. "Guns, Eric, what does this mean? Why can your father just fire you like that? No way you." "Hey, Eric, I'm talking to you. Rest was come of an answer mean. You're going to be the next director, right? You can handle the wedding costs and our future life, right? Hence, that's so sayas. Come on, Rick. Why aren't you answering?" Rick, unable to utter a coherent response, stood frozen even as Samantha shook him by the shoulder. Amidst Samantha's panic, unable to grasp the situation, my father smiled and said, "Samantha, let me tell you the truth. Actually, the hospital where Eric works was established and opened by me, and I was the director. But Eric said his father was a part-timer and not doing anything. That's all lies from Eric. I'm a doctor, and my wife is a full-time homemaker, and Tracy works in administration at a well-known major corporation, not at some unknown company." "What? A lie. Then you're not poor at all. On the contrary, we employed Eric in our hospital after he failed in every job hunt. I thought it was supporting him for his own good. Of course, I never intended to make Eric the director. This commotion made me realize that my judgment was wrong. Then, does that mean? Yes, Eric is fired as of today, and I have no intention of paying for the $60,000 cost of this wedding." "No way. Oh no." Samantha turned pale and held her head in shock. Meanwhile, we followed our father's instructions and started heading towards the exit to leave the venue. Behind us, Samantha's screams echoed throughout the venue. Afterward, naturally, the wedding was called off. The guests, having witnessed the entire debacle, seemed to find the situation ridiculous and began leaving one after another. Of course, the wedding gifts were returned, and without the wedding cost being covered, it resulted in a huge loss. It turned out that Samantha had quit her job, planning to live a lavish life as the wife of the future director. But with those plans in ruins, and both of them unemployed, they faced a new reality. Even pooling their savings, they couldn't cover the entire cost of the wedding, and they ended up in debt. Although Eric has the qualification of a doctor, his credibility is tarnished, and he can't find a proper hospital job. Now they're both working multiple part-time jobs, seemingly without enough time even to sleep. As for our family, we haven't spoken about Eric since that day. Just my parents, who'd been troubled over Eric, or relieved from that life and have regained their smiles, living happily. The incident with Eric made me realize again how important it is to understand people's feelings and build human relationships, in addition to knowledge and education. I am determined not to neglect my efforts to become a person who can empathize with others, as my father has always advocated.